In the vast expanse of the Milky Way, there existed a peculiar phenomenon that baffled the entire galactic community. Whenever a human uttered the phrase, "Hold my beer," artificial intelligence systems across multiple star systems would automatically elevate their threat assessment protocols. The story begins at the Galactic Council's annual security conference, where Admiral Smith of Earth's Space Force found himself surrounded by representatives of various advanced alien civilizations. The main topic of discussion was the inexplicable success rate of human improvisation in crisis situations. "Your species continues to perplex us," stated the blue-skinned representative from the Stellar Federation. "Your solutions often defy conventional logic, yet they work with remarkable efficiency." Admiral Smith merely smiled, remembering countless incidents where humanity's seemingly reckless approaches had saved the day. He thought back to the infamous asteroid belt crisis of 2157, where a massive rock formation threatened to collide with an alien colony world. While other species proposed complex calculations and years of careful planning, engineer Tom Wilson had looked at the problem, taken a sip from his coffee mug, and said those famous words, "Hold my beer." What followed was either brilliant madness or madding brilliance. Wilson had suggested using Earth's old space junk as makeshift propulsion devices, essentially turning space debris into a massive impromptu rocket system. The plan involved creating a chain reaction of controlled explosions that would gradually alter the asteroid's course. The alien scientists were horrified. The plan violated at least 15 different safety protocols and countless mathematical principles. Yet, when conventional methods failed, they had no choice but to let the humans try their approach. To everyone's amazement, it worked. The asteroid was redirected with minimal resource expenditure, though the sight of human space junk being used as an improvised asteroid deflection system gave the alien observers several new types of anxiety. Back at the conference, Admiral Smith finished his report about the incident. The room had fallen silent, a mixture of awe and concern evident on the faces of the alien representatives. One of them raised a trembling appendage and asked, "But how do you calculate the risks?" Smith's response was simple, "Sometimes we don't. Sometimes you just have to trust your gut and go for it." The conference room's AI immediately raised the threat level by 2 points, causing several alien delegates to nervously edge away from the human section. As Smith walked back to his quarters that evening, he couldn't help but chuckle at the irony. The very unpredictability that made other species nervous was humanity's greatest strength. They had learned to embrace chaos, to surf the waves of uncertainty with a grin and a beer in hand. Little did anyone know, this was just the beginning. Somewhere on a distant space station, another human was about to utter those famous words, and the galaxy would once again hold its breath in anticipation of what insane yet effective solution would follow. The incident that truly cemented humanity's reputation occurred during the Great Power Crisis of Space Station Omega, the largest deep space trading hub in the galaxy. The station's main reactor had begun to malfunction, threatening to create a chain reaction that could vaporize the entire structure along with its 10,000 inhabitants. The station's chief engineer, a veteran from the Crystal Empire with 3 decades of experience, had exhausted all standard procedures. The emergency protocols, tested across 1,000 worlds, had failed. The evacuation orders were given, but there wasn't enough time to get everyone to safety. That's when Jack Miller, a human maintenance worker, stepped forward. He had been quietly observing the chaos while finishing his lunch break. Setting down his sandwich, he spoke those words that made every alien in the control room flinch, "Hold my beer." The station's AI immediately broadcasted a high-level threat warning, causing several alien species to begin molting in anxiety. But Miller was already moving, grabbing tools and explaining his plan with the casual confidence that only a human could maintain in such a crisis. "Look," he said, pointing at the station's schematics, "we've got hundreds of personal hover vehicles in the main bay. If we link their power cells together and reverse the polarity, we can create a temporary power surge strong enough to jumpstart the backup systems." The chief engineer's crystalline form flickered in distress. That's not possible. The systems aren't compatible. The surge would be uncontrollable. Miller grinned, already halfway through rewiring a hover bike. That's why we're going to use the station's water recycling system as a coolant. Trust me, I've done something similar with car batteries back home. The comparison between the station's trillion-credit reactor system and Earth automobile batteries caused several alien technicians to emit high-pitched whistling sounds of distress. Yet, as the reactor's warning signals grew more urgent, they found themselves helping this crazy human implement his insane plan. What followed was a scene that would be talked about in engineering schools across the galaxy for years to come. A daisy chain of hover vehicles, connected by improvised cables, their power cells humming with dangerous levels of energy. The station's water recycling system had been redirected through maintenance tunnels, creating a makeshift cooling system that violated at least 20 different safety regulations. When everything was ready, Miller stood at the main control panel, surrounded by nervous aliens who had retreated to what they considered a safe distance. With the same casualness one might use to order lunch, he activated the system. The lights throughout the station flickered. Strange sounds echoed through the corridors. For a moment, everything went dark. Then, miracle of miracles, the reactor stabilized. The emergency warnings ceased. The station systems returned to normal. As the alien engineers cautiously checked their readings, Miller retrieved his beer, still cold, and took a satisfied sip. Sometimes, he said to no one in particular, you just need to give it a good kick. The story spread quickly through the galaxy's communication networks. While official reports focused on the technical aspects of the crisis, what really caught everyone's attention was how a human had essentially jump-started a space station like an old car. Back on Earth, the incident was met with proud nods and raised glasses. To humans, it was just another day at the office. To the rest of the galaxy, it was another reminder that humanity's capacity for improvisation was as terrifying as it was impressive. In the following weeks, the Galactic Safety Board added a new regulation: any facility employing humans must have dedicated emergency protocols for unconventional solutions. They also strongly advised against trying to understand the logic behind these solutions, as several alien scientists had already suffered mental breakdowns in the attempt. The reputation of human problem-solving reached new heights during the infamous first contact situation with the Swarm, a newly discovered intelligent species that communicated entirely through dance-like movements. The diplomatic corps of 12 different advanced civilizations had failed to establish meaningful contact, their carefully calculated approaches proving useless. The Swarm's massive ships had appeared at the edge of human space, their intentions unknown. Every attempt at communication had been met with increasingly aggressive displays that nobody could interpret. The situation was deteriorating rapidly, with military vessels from various species moving into defensive positions. That's when Captain Lisa Brown, a human anthropologist with a history of breaking protocol, noticed something while watching recordings of the Swarm's movements. She had been enjoying her evening drink in the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel when it clicked. "Hold my beer," she said, causing the ship's AI to immediately lock down all weapon systems and send warning signals to nearby vessels. The alien diplomats watched in horror as she grabbed her personal tablet and began typing furiously. "Their movements," she explained to the bewildered diplomatic team, "they're not random. They remind me of old Earth sports celebrations. You know, victory dances, team chants, that kind of thing." The alien diplomats stared at her in confusion. The concept of celebrating athletic achievement through rhythmic movement was considered primitive by most galactic standards. But Brown was already implementing her wild theory. She accessed the ship's external lighting system and began programming it to flash in patterns matching recordings of Earth's most famous sports celebrations. The wave, the haka, and dozens of victory dances from various human cultures were translated into light patterns and broadcast toward the Swarm's ships. The alien diplomats watched in a mixture of horror and fascination as Brown essentially turned their state-of-the-art diplomatic vessel into what one of them described as a primitive disco ball in space. Several threatened to file official complaints about the violation of diplomatic protocols. Then something extraordinary happened. The swarm's ships began to move in new patterns, mimicking the light display. Brown's face lit up with excitement. They're responding. Quick, someone help me program more dance moves. What followed was perhaps the strangest first contact scenario in galactic history. For the next 12 hours, Brown orchestrated what could only be described as an interstellar dance-off. The ship's lights flashed in patterns of human celebration, and the swarm responded with their own movements, each exchange becoming more synchronized. The alien diplomats watched in stunned silence as Brown finally decoded the pattern. "They're not trying to threaten us," she announced triumphantly. "They're inviting us to join their celebration. They just discovered faster-than-light travel, and they're looking for others to share their joy." The revelation that a potentially devastating interspecies conflict had been averted through what amounted to a cosmic dance party was met with disbelief throughout the galaxy. The fact that a human had solved the crisis by essentially turning a diplomatic mission into a sports bar celebration caused several alien species to update their threat assessment protocols. In the following months, as formal diplomatic relations were established with the swarm, Brown's unconventional approach became a case study in thinking outside the box. The Galactic Diplomatic Corps was forced to add celebratory movement patterns to their first contact protocols, much to their chagrin. Back on the diplomatic vessel, Brown retrieved her beer, now warm, and took a victory sip. "Sometimes," she said to the still-shocked alien diplomats, "you just need to loosen up and join the party." The incident served as yet another reminder that humanity's apparent lack of regard for proper procedure was matched only by their uncanny ability to find solutions in the most unexpected places. The galaxy was learning, slowly but surely, that when a human said, "Hold my beer," it wasn't just a prelude to chaos, it was often the beginning of an improbable success story. The galaxy's perception of human problem-solving methods faced another dramatic shift during the Great Space Mall incident. The largest shopping complex in the known universe, spanning an entire artificial moon, had fallen victim to a peculiar technical malfunction. Its artificial gravity had gone haywire, creating random pockets of varying gravitational pulls throughout the structure. The mall's advanced AI systems, designed by the most sophisticated tech species in the galaxy, had completely frozen, unable to process the chaos of conflicting gravitational fields. Over 1 million shoppers from hundreds of different species found themselves trapped in a nightmare of shifting gravity zones. That's when Bob Parker, a human maintenance worker who had been on his lunch break in the food court, finished his sandwich and spoke those now legendary words, "Hold my beer." The mall's security AI immediately initiated emergency protocols, causing all robotic assistants to retreat to safe distances. "You know," Bob said to no one in particular, "this reminds me of that old amusement park ride back on Earth. The Gravitron, I think they called it." He pulled out his tablet and began accessing the mall's maintenance systems, his fingers flying over the screen with casual confidence. The mall's chief operations manager, a highly evolved artificial intelligence housed in a sleek robotic body, watched in growing alarm as Bob began to deliberately manipulate the malfunctioning gravity systems rather than trying to shut them down. "What you're attempting is impossible," the AI stated. "The gravitational fields are too unstable to be controlled. We must wait for the emergency response team from the Galactic Engineering Corps." Bob just grinned. "Nah, we don't need to control them. We just need to sync them up, like a dance beat. Trust me, I used to DJ in college." What followed was either the most brilliant or most reckless application of human entertainment principles to a serious crisis. Bob began coordinating the gravity fluctuations, turning what was a dangerous malfunction into what he called a gravity wave party. Using the mall's public announcement system, he broadcast instructions to all trapped shoppers, ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all configurations. Welcome to the first ever cosmic gravity dance. Just go with the flow, and remember, it's just like surfing. To the astonishment of every alien species present, the humans in the mall immediately adapted to the situation, treating the gravity shifts like some kind of extreme sport. They began teaching others how to ride the gravity waves, turning a potential disaster into what some would later describe as the most exciting shopping experience in galactic history. Bob, meanwhile, had transformed the mall's central control room into something resembling a DJ booth. He coordinated the gravity fluctuations to create patterns that could be predicted and navigated, essentially turning the entire mall into a gigantic zero-gravity playground. By the time the Galactic Engineering Corps arrived 6 hours later, they found not a crisis, but a party. Beings of all species were floating, bouncing, and gliding through the mall's chambers in a surprisingly organized chaos. Shopping continued, though now with the added excitement of mid-air transactions. The Corps' chief engineer, after reviewing Bob's improvised solution, had to be taken to the medical bay for stress treatment. The idea that a complex gravitational crisis had been solved by treating it like an amusement park ride violated every engineering principle they had ever learned. Bob eventually restored a normal gravity, but not before the mall's management received thousands of requests to make the gravity dance a regular event. He retrieved his now warm beer and shrugged at the stunned aliens surrounding him. Sometimes you just need to turn a problem into a party. The incident led to yet another update in the galactic safety protocols. In the event of a physics-defying crisis, consider consulting human entertainment experts before engineering specialists. It also led to a new trend in space mall design, with designated areas for variable gravity entertainment, though always under strict supervision and never, ever, near the food court. The galaxy's fascination with human problem-solving reached new heights during the infamous Quantum Zoo breakout. The most advanced biological research facility in the known universe, housing creatures from across multiple dimensions, faced a crisis when its quantum containment fields began to fail. The facility, located on a remote asteroid, housed specimens that existed in multiple states simultaneously, a scientific achievement that had earned its creators numerous galactic awards. However, when the containment systems started to collapse, even the facility's quantum AI couldn't calculate a solution fast enough. That's when Mike Thompson, a human janitor who had been cleaning the observation deck, looked up from his work and uttered those words that made every alien scientist in the room reach for their emergency teleporters: "Hold my beer." The facility's threat assessment AI immediately began calculating the probability of human-induced chaos, causing several backup systems to activate preemptively. The chief scientist, a being of pure energy contained within a specialized suit, watched in horror as Mike pulled out his personal tablet and began accessing the facility's entertainment systems. "You know," Mike said, scratching his chin thoughtfully, "this reminds me of herding cats. My grandmother had 12 of them back on Earth." He started pulling up files from the facility's database about each quantum creature's behavior patterns. The quantum AI spoke up, its voice tinged with what passed for anxiety in artificial intelligences. "The creatures exist in multiple states simultaneously. It's mathematically impossible to predict their movements with enough accuracy to contain them." Mike grinned. "Who said anything about predicting? We just need to give them something they all want to follow, no matter which state they're in." He accessed the facility's holographic projection system and began programming something that made the alien scientists question their understanding of human sanity. Using the entertainment system's holographic projectors, Mike created what he called a quantum laser pointer, a beam of light that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously, matching the creature's dimensional frequencies. His explanation was simple: if it works on cats, it might work on quantum cats too. The aliens watched in disbelief as Mike began playing with the quantum creatures like they were ordinary pets, using his improvised quantum laser pointer to guide them back to their containment areas. The creatures, despite existing in multiple states and dimensions, all shared one apparently universal trait: the instinct to chase moving lights. What followed was perhaps the strangest animal control operation in galactic history. Mike orchestrated what he called a quantum cat parade, leading the creatures through the facility with his multidimensional light show. He even added classical music to the facility's speakers, claiming it made everything seem more professional. The quantum AI nearly crashed trying to calculate the probability of success for this approach, especially when Mike started adding different colored lights for different species. It's like a disco for quantum pets, he explained to the bewildered scientists. Every cat loves a good party. 3 hours later, all creatures were safely back in their containment fields. The facility's engineers had enough time to repair the quantum field generators, thanks to Mike's unorthodox but effective herding technique. Several of the quantum creatures even seemed disappointed when the light show ended. As Mike retrieved his beer, still cold thanks to the facility's perfect climate control, one of the alien scientists finally asked the question they'd all been thinking: "How did you know that would work?" Mike shrugged. Sometimes the most complex problems have the simplest solutions. Besides, no matter how many dimensions they exist in, a cat is still a cat. The incident led to another update in the Galactic Emergency Response Protocols. In the event of multidimensional containment breaches, consider consulting human pet owners before quantum physicists. It also sparked a new field of study in quantum biology, the universal constants of pet behavior across dimensional boundaries. The facility's quantum AI had to undergo 3 weeks of recalibration to cope with the fact that a human had solved a complex quantum physics crisis using methods inspired by household pet care. Meanwhile, Mike's quantum laser pointer technique became standard training for all facility staff, though most alien species still refused to believe it was actually that simple. The galaxy's relationship with human problem-solving methods faced its most dramatic test during the Great Universal Translation Crisis. The central AI core that maintained translations between all known species suddenly developed what could only be described as a form of digital hiccups, randomly mixing up words and concepts across thousands of languages. The crisis reached its peak during the annual Galactic Peace Conference, where representatives from over 500 species found themselves unable to communicate. The backup systems had failed, and the most advanced AI specialists in the galaxy were at a loss to fix the corruption in the translation matrices. That's when Amanda Reed, a human linguistics student who was working as a coffee server at the conference, set down her serving tray and spoke those words that caused every AI in the vicinity to initiate emergency lockdown procedures: "Hold my beer." The conference hall's security systems immediately began calculating potential chaos scenarios, while alien diplomats who had learned to recognize the phrase started looking for the nearest exits. Amanda, however, was already pulling out her personal tablet and accessing the conference's entertainment database. "You know what this reminds me of," she said, scrolling through media files. "That old Earth game, charades. When you can't say something, you find another way to express it." She began downloading every emoji, meme, and GIF from Earth's internet history that had been archived in the Galactic database. The head of the Galactic Communication Board, a telepathic being who relied on the translation system to convert their thoughts into understandable forms, transmitted waves of skepticism. "You propose to replace our sophisticated translation matrices with primitive Earth pictograms?" Amanda grinned. "Exactly. Think about it, some concepts are universal. Everyone understands a smile, a thumbs up, or a cat video." She began uploading what she called an emergency meme protocol into the malfunctioning translation system. What followed was perhaps the most unusual diplomatic session in galactic history. As the traditional translation system continued to malfunction, Amanda's improvised system began offering alternatives: reaction GIFs, emojis, and classic memes adapted for each species' visual perception capabilities. The conference hall transformed into something resembling a massive group chat. Serious diplomatic discussions were now being conducted through a combination of hand gestures, universal symbols, and what Amanda called culturally transcendent memes. To everyone's surprise, it worked. Despite the complexity of interstellar diplomacy, fundamental concepts could indeed be conveyed through simple, visual means. Peace treaties were negotiated using combinations of heart emojis and handshake GIFs. Trade agreements were settled with universal symbols and simplified pictographs. One particularly tense territorial dispute was resolved entirely through a carefully curated sequence of cat videos, which somehow managed to convey concepts of shared space and mutual cooperation better than words ever had. The alien diplomats, initially skeptical, found themselves embracing this new form of communication. Some even noted that the simplified, visual approach actually helped prevent the misunderstandings that often plagued traditional diplomatic translations. By the time the main translation system was repaired 3 days later, several alien species had formally requested to continue using what they called the human pictographic protocol, alongside traditional translations. The concept of expressing complex ideas through simple, universal symbols had struck a chord across species boundaries. Amanda retrieved her beer, now at room temperature, and took a celebratory sip. Sometimes, she said, using a combination of words and emojis that the partially repaired translation system rendered into multiple languages, the best way to understand each other is to go back to basics. The incident led to yet another update in galactic communication protocols. In the event of translation system failure, consider consulting human internet historians before AI specialists. It also sparked a new field of study in xenolinguistics, the use of universal visual symbols and what humans called meme theory in interspecies communication. The Galactic Communication Board had to spend months analyzing how a collection of Earth's internet culture had managed to facilitate complex diplomatic negotiations. Meanwhile, Amanda's emergency meme protocol became a standard backup feature in all translation systems, though most alien species still couldn't fully grasp why humans found certain images of cats so universally meaningful. The Galactic Council finally decided to address the human phenomenon during an emergency session called specifically to understand why their species' most effective solutions seemed to emerge from their most casual moments. Representatives from every major civilization gathered to review the mounting evidence that humans were somehow most brilliant when they were least serious. The council chamber, a vast hall designed to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes, was filled to capacity. The agenda was simple: determine whether human unpredictability should be classified as a threat or a galactic resource. As various species presented their findings, the asteroid deflection with space junk, the space station jumpstart, the cosmic dance party diplomacy, the quantum zoo solution, the gravity mall incident, and the meme-based peace negotiations, a pattern emerged that both fascinated and terrified the galactic community. That's when Dr. James Wilson, Earth's representative to the Council, stood up to speak. Before he could begin his prepared statement, he noticed something odd about the Council chamber's environmental systems. The air was becoming slightly thin, and the artificial gravity was fluctuating minutely, nothing dangerous, but noticeable. A smile crossed his face as he set down his drink and said those now infamous words, "Hold my beer." The Council chamber's AI immediately initiated all emergency protocols, causing several diplomatic pods to seal themselves hermetically. The head of the Council, a being of pure thought encased in an energy field, radiating waves of concern. "What I'm about to tell you," Wilson said, accessing the chamber's environmental controls with casual confidence, "is that you're all missing the point. You're so focused on the phrase, 'hold my beer,' that you've forgotten what it really means." As he spoke, he began making subtle adjustments to the chamber's systems, not fixing them entirely, but making them work together in their slightly malfunctioning state. The room's atmosphere stabilized into something that wasn't quite perfect but was somehow more comfortable than before. "When a human says, 'hold my beer,'" he continued, "it's not a warning. It's a promise. A promise that we're about to stop overthinking and start doing. A promise that we're going to tackle a problem not with just our minds, but with our entire human experience, our creativity, our humor, our ability to see patterns in chaos and opportunities in disasters. The chamber's AI noted that the environmental systems were now operating at 115% efficiency, despite running in a configuration that violated several laws of thermodynamics. The alien representatives found themselves oddly comfortable in the imperfect but somehow improved environment. Every species here, Wilson gestured around the chamber, evolved to seek perfection in their own way. You created incredible AIs, mastered quantum physics, built impossible structures. But humans? We evolved to adapt, to improvise, to find ways to not just survive chaos but to thrive in it. He retrieved his beer, letting the truth of his words sink in. That's why our solutions seem insane to you. You try to eliminate chaos. We embrace it. You seek perfect solutions. We find ways to make imperfect solutions work better than perfect ones ever could. The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology, their intelligence, or even their creativity. It was their ability to take the unconventional, the imperfect, the chaotic, and turn it into something that worked better than anyone could have predicted. The Galactic Council's final ruling was unprecedented. Human unpredictability was classified as both a threat and a resource, with a special note: when a human says, "Hold my beer, don't run. Watch. You might just witness the impossible becoming possible." As the ruling was recorded in the Galactic Archives, a new addition was made to the Universal Translation Matrix. The phrase, "Hold my beer," was left untranslated in all languages, standing as a testament to humanity's unique approach to problem-solving. Dr. Wilson finished his now warm beer and smiled at the assembled representatives. "Sometimes," he said, "the best way to handle chaos is to add a little more chaos, but the right kind of chaos." The chamber's AI, processing this statement, decided to create an entirely new threat level category, just for humans: unpredictably brilliant.